Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation in Treaty 3 territory. On the panel with me today is Ms. Gail Anderson and Ms. Kim Sharman. Our secretary today is Ms. Crystal Harland, and our assessor is Mr. Travis Gretchen. My name is Bill Moreski. I am also on the panel and will be chairing the meeting as well. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application and will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will hear items 3, 4, and 6 through 9 on our docket today. Mrs. Harlan, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony for the first property.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Travis Gretchen.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Horsburgh, would you please stand? Would you please state your full name?
Carson John Horsburgh.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, our first property on the docket today is item number 3, 725 Black Diamond Drive. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. Mr. Gretchen, can you please begin your presentation for this property?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The file number for this property is 25-351. The roll number 0609-347-5400. Address 725 Black Diamond Boulevard. The roll year for this appeal is 2026. We have a reference date of April 1st, 2023, and an assessed value of $6,487,000. So the property is one building consisting of 3 premises. This is a new built in 2024. It has 33 feet wall heights, 33-foot wall heights. The land area is 135,529 square feet, and the leasable area is 33,000 square feet, giving us a land to plan of 4.11. The property is located in the southeast quadrant of the city. You'll see the maps on my page 3. It is in the St. Boniface Industrial Park between Plessis and La Jamodier. Moving to my page 4 and 5, you'll find overhead photos of the property. And page 6, there are a couple of the street view photos as well as an interior photo. Page 7, you will find my rent comparables. So they range in lease start dates from 2018 to 2022, with lease terms from 2 to 10 years, and square footages of approximately 32,000 to 50,000. The wall heights ranged from 20 to 31 feet, and the effective year builds ranged from year 2000 to 2008. The net rents range from $9.25 to $15.47. So you'll see through my comparables, they all have lower wall heights and are almost 20 years older than the newer built property here at the subject. In terms of my comparables, 147 Commerce would be the closest in age and only has 20-foot wall height. Moving to my page 8, we'll find the workup for this property. So again, we have a total of 33,000 square feet. The blended rent for this property is $10.24. And we have a potential rent of $338,160. The vacancy applied is 1.5%, giving us an effective gross income $333,088. After expenses at 3% and a $4 shortfall, we arrive at net operating income of $321,115. The cap rate applied is 4.95%, and this gives us our rounded value of $6,487,000. Moving to my page 10, you'll find the capitalization rates. So our cap rate is 4.95%. As mentioned, this is lower than the city's 20th percentile, as well as the low cap rates found through the market studies. This again would be based on the wall height, the age of the building being newly built 2024, as well as the quality and condition. Moving to my page 12, you'll find the initial building permit for the property with a value at $5.8 million for the build. This was in 2023, I guess the start of construction. And following that was an additional permit for, I guess, fit up / interior construction for another $450,000. Page 14 has a summary of the total permits that have been pulled for this property and the total valuation of $6,565,810. Moving to my page 15 to 17, this was the posted listing for the subject property. You'll note that the rent has been blacked out, as this marketing information would be considered post-reference, as it was advertised after our reference date of April 1st, 2023. If the applicant wants to speak to the rents that were posted, that would be at his discretion. On our end, we feel that our rent is more than fair. And that concludes my presentation on this property. I ask for confirmation at the value of $6,487,000. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Horsberg, do you have any questions on the assessor's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one or two questions for the assessor. Just on page 7, just the rental comparables. Can I ask why there aren't any rental comparables from the St. Boniface Industrial Park where the subject property is located?
Yeah, so as mentioned, and I've highlighted a few times on this presentation, this is a new build. Finding comparables to this property, I had to branch across the city. I used, basic search parameters with year built, square footage, and the ceiling heights. And as I also covered that in my presentation, I couldn't find anything remotely close to age that had 33-foot wall heights. So this property would be superior to my comparables.
And then just moving on to page 8, under income streams, we have tenant class C2 standard finish, C2 standard finish, 13,200 square feet, 6,600 square feet, for a total of 19,800 square feet, and then leasable area 33,000 square feet. Am I mistaken, or are we short about 12,000 square feet in your analysis here?
Yeah, so looking at that, I'm noticing that now as well. If you go directly below it, you'll see the 33,000 square feet. As you are aware, this is a 3-unit building, which is fully occupied. For whatever reason, the third unit isn't showing here, but it is the same as the first unit at 13,200 square feet. So if you total 13,200 times 2 plus the 6,600, we should arrive at 33,000 for the total leasable area of the building.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, it's been omitted, or there was an error, I suppose, of some kind. And so we're missing a third premise with a leasable area of 13,200 square feet. Is that correct?
Well, as mentioned, it's not missing because the total leasable area is at the square footage isn't missing, but the information pertaining to that unit isn't presented here.
Okay, and would it be
Our potential rent of 33,800 160 and our leasable area of 33,000 would still represent the totality of the building.
okay? And so that other unit, it would be the same, the 1046 per square foot.
I would I'm uncertain. It's as mentioned, it's not presented here, so I can't say that it is or isn't.
So then is it fair to say that there are 13,200 square feet in this assessment, but we don't know what rental rate has been applied to that area?
Well, we're presenting on a blended rental rate of $10.24. But if you want the exact rental rate, that's something that I can pull up.
Okay, but it's not included in this disclosure, is that correct?
Well, it is in the sense, once again, that we're presenting on a blended rent of the 3 units. So the blended rent of the 3 units is $10.24. So if we're looking at, okay, so yeah, clearly the rent of the third premise would be lower because the 2 that are presented is 1046 and 1106. And we have a blended rent of 1024. So averaging the 3 rents, that third rent would be lower than the 2 that are on this this document.
And then the rest of these parameters, expenses, cap rate, these are model derived parameters?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you, no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. In regards to page 14, where you have included valuations in regard to the building permits issued.
Yep.
Was there an inspection after to determine if all these permits, if the work had been completed?
I personally did not inspect. I'm uncertain if there was an inspection. Does it show? Sometimes it shows if the permits have been closed off or inspected, but it doesn't look like it does on this document. Based on the fact that the building is fully occupied, my assumption would be that everything has been completed, being a 2023 or start date of construction, 2024 completion, and then full occupancy. But I'm not 100% sure as to what has been closed off and what has been open. Some of these permits were for signage as well as interior alterations. So you're expecting that to be done before tenants would move in.
Okay. So do you have an occupation date, like when it was occupied, or?
Not in my document, but once again, I can pull that up. I believe it was all fully occupied in 2024. Just have to give me a minute if you want those dates. All right, so we have 3 premises, and the first premise occupied July 2024. Second premise, November of 2024. And the third premise, also November of 2024. Would be based on dates that were provided to us. Sometimes there are, fixturing periods or times where the date put on is based on work being completed. But based on the information I have, those are the dates for occupancy.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Sharman, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I do not, thank you.
On page 5 there, you have a picture of the premise of the whole entire building. So your premises that you're talking about, the one for 19,000 square feet approximately, there's 2 of them, correct?
2 13,000s, yes.
And that would be, if I'm looking at this photo, the one on the bottom and then the one in the middle, those are the 2 19,000 square footers.
I believe it's the first and the third.
Okay, and then the middle one is the smaller one then.
I believe so. I
So is there
haven't.
demising walls in there between these premises?
Yes. Each tenant has their own fully demised space. So we have 3 units. So they'd have care and control of each of their own units with entries and exits and loading doors.
And they were all built approximately the same time. Like the whole building went up basically at the same time, right?
That's correct, yeah. So
Okay.
occupancy would be either based on when they could fill the lease or when they finished those permits. I did provide that one permit for the interior finishings. So after that date, I would assume the units were all available, and then it was just a matter of them filling the lease.
Okay, and then all your permits are all the pre-built excuse me, pre of the commencement of building this whole building, correct? Prior to? Yeah.
Except for the top 3. So one would just be the 3,000 would likely just be erecting the signage for the building, so that wouldn't have affected occupancy at all. But the top 2, 35,000 and 26,000 were done December of 2024, which we've already gone through. Tenants were already in place at that time. And then 26,000 in December of 2025.
Okay, and then this last one at the bottom, that's the actual building itself, 5,800,000.
So that was the initial projected cost for constructing the building in 2023. And then the second one above that was an additional $450,000, which went into the interior finishing. So that would be your demising walls and flooring, all the basic stuff like that.
Okay, so would it be fair to say your objective with providing these permits is to support your value of approximately $6.5 million? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions then. Mr. Horsberg, you can begin your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as previously alluded to, the property under discussion today is 725 Black Diamond Boulevard. The board will follow me through to page 4 and 5. Property is a multi-tenant industrial building located in St. Boniface, the St. Boniface Industrial Park to be specific. The assessed value of $6,487,000 has been overstated in our opinion. M&P has valued the subject property slightly lower at $5,968,000. And that is the value that I would request the board revise the assessment to. Moving on to page 5, I have provided an executive summary. The two key issues under dispute for this subject property really pertain to the applied capitalization rate and the applied rental rate as well. As we've already seen with the city assessment presentation, even though the onus as per legislation is on the assessor to prove that their value is correct, they have relied on rental comparisons primarily from the southwest quadrant of the city, not taking into account the site-specific market in the St. Boniface industrial market, and again the capitalization rate understated at a sub-5 rate. So moving on, pages 6 and 7, approaches to value. The city has applied the income approach as has the applicant. If we move on to page 12, we have provided the city breakdown of the assessment. And on page 13, I have provided my valuation of the subject property as well. So here on page 13, really just the two key differences. The potential rent, the city has assessed or applied a potential rent of $338,160 versus the applied rent of M&P has applied $330,000, accepted the vacancy allowance of 1.5%, as well as the expense allowance of 3%. So really just a slight difference between our net operating income of $313,319 versus $321,115, and then a difference of 4.9% the city's capitalization rate and 5.25% being the cap rate that M&P has applied. So if we move on to the next page, I have provided photographs on page 14 and 15. Or just give me 1 second here. I seems that some of my report did not print here. Can I ask the board for, Mr. Chair, can I ask for 2 minutes? It just appears that my report got cut off partway here.
Okay, can we take a 5-minute recess, Ms. Harlan?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we are back to order. Mr. Horsberg, could you please continue with your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, my apologies for that. So if we move on here from page 15 to page 16, I do speak to the potential income for the subject property. So I have looked at some leasing from a few different areas throughout the city. Did my best to, admittedly, the assessor and I have the same issue of trying to find similar properties in terms of determining what an appropriate lease would be for the subject property. So in looking at a variety of different areas throughout the city, I did determine that a rental rate of $10 per square foot is appropriate, and we did have the most support in the market for that rental rate, as shown in the tables provided. So that's why we've ultimately arrived at a potential income of $330,000, just slightly lower than what was applied by the assessor. If we move on to the next page, page 17, some discussion as to the capitalization rate. So the city has provided their table for what they consider single tenant Class A industrial properties. And then they don't say multi-tenant Class A, but their capitalization rates don't change between those different classifications. The 20th percentile being 5.35 to the 80th percentile at 7.30. Third-party reports from Colliers, CBRE, Cushman & Wakefield show these capitalization rates varying from 5.5% to 6.75% for the most part. So the subject property is what I would consider, what the market would consider to be a Class A industrial warehouse. It is a modern, highly marketable property, but certainly a sub 5% capitalization rate cannot be supported by the market. From an investor's perspective, certainly these properties are more attractive than perhaps some of the older stock in the market. But to apply a sub 5 capitalization rate, well, there just isn't any market support for a rate that low. So accordingly, the capitalization rate of 5.25%, it falls on the low end, which does make sense for a property of this quality. However, going below 5%, there is simply no market evidence that supports a rate that low. So moving on to the conclusion on page 18. Again, just really the two key issues here, slightly high rent and then a slightly too low capitalization rate, which results in an overassessed property. And with that, I would request that the board revise the assessment to $5,968,000 to appropriately reflect the market value for the subject property. And with that, I would welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gretchen, do you have any questions on the applicant's presentation?
I believe he covered everything. I was going to have questions regarding his rent comparables. He kind of covered that, a lot of them don't truly represent the property based on, his age builds of, 1964 to 2000 when we're looking at a brand new 2024 build. I guess one other thing would be looking at your comparables for wall heights. Would you not agree that, a modern building with a 33-foot wall height would drive a higher rent?
Certainly, I would agree, but I would say with the 33 clear wall height, the market, certainly there's a demand for it and you have more flexibility with it. From what I've seen in the market, there's more demand for the high clear wall heights in more of the Centerport region, more of the Inkster Industrial Park, closer to the airport, where you have more heavy warehousing. The St. Boniface Industrial Park is a little bit more mixed of some manufacturing, some warehousing. But overall, I would agree with you that a higher clear wall height usually would translate into a higher.
All right, I think that's it for questions for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Sharman, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
Yes, just a quick question. On page 16, your rent comparables, the bottom two, the smaller table where you have a couple of comparables there, one on Fennel and one on Soto. Just wondering, the leases have ended. Do you have any information whether they've been renewed and a new rate has been negotiated?
That's a very good question. To answer you, I'm not certain. The way we collect a lot of our data, we retrieve a lot of these rental comparables that are put into the public record by the city assessment department. And we collect a lot of these rents every 2 years. So we were looking at rents between April 1st of 2021 to April 1st of 2023. Coming to the reassessment cycle, we're going to be looking April 1st, 2023 to April 1st, 2025. So hopefully I'll have a better answer for you come reassessment, but at this time, I'm not aware of whether or not they've renewed or moved on or who's in those buildings at the current time.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That's my only question. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for your cap rates, you came up with 5.25%. And you were also using the chart similar to what the city had provided on page 17. So you also went lower than the values shown on here on the as well. So can you just speak to that?
Certainly. So I do work with quite a few different commercial realtors and people in the industry. Particularly, I really actually looked at the Cushman and Wakefield report. Not to say that they're really better or worse than Colliers or CBRE, but I trust their numbers. And they're looking at the low range for Class A industrial properties at 5.25. The city says 20th percentile at 5.35. Admittedly, this is a Class A property. I don't see it at 5.5%. I do see it at lower than 5.5% cap rate. 5.25%. That makes sense for the neighborhood. It makes sense based on the conversations I have with people in the industry. If this property were, same one, but in Centerport, I could certainly see maybe a 5 cap, a hard 5. But for a property of this size in the St. Boniface Industrial Park, where we're not seeing the same kind of demand as we are in the Centerport area, 5.25%. I put my seal on that. I would not go any higher. I would not go any lower.
Okay. I'm going to redirect to the assessor. So I don't believe that he was challenged on his cap rate presented of 4.95. So, Mr. Gretchen, can you give me an explanation of how you came up with 4.95, which is lower than what is shown on the chart that you provided as well?
Yeah, certainly. So looking at the chart on Mr. Horsborough's page 17, I guess we're currently on his evidence, so it's easiest to pull up. You'll see our cap rates range from 5.35 to 7.3. But this is the 20th to 80th percentile, keep in mind. So there are properties outside of the 20th to 80th being, above 7.3 for that 90th to 100th percentile and below 5.3 for our, top 20 percentile. So we're not going to have a lot of properties that fit those categories because they're unique in some sense. In this case, it's a new build. This is a brand new property. It's 3-tenanted. It's fully occupied, no vacancy, and I also believe partially owner occupied. I also mentioned there was a income and expense mailer submitted, which I couldn't speak to because it's post reference. I asked or challenged the applicant to speak to those rents, and I did mention that our rent is fair. in that sense as well. The cap rate there is taking into consideration not only the age, but that quality of finish. We saw the permit value for those finishings, as well the wall height. It's, you know, above anything that we're looking at here, and that it adds value in the sense of the utility of the building. So I do believe that a 4.9 cap or 4.95 cap rate is fair for this building, and that's why we're seeing it below the 20th percentile. The majority of our properties are falling in that 20th to 80th, but we're not looking at, you know, the vast number of properties. There's very few that are going to be new builds. And so that's where I feel confident in the 4.95% cap rate.
Okay, just one more question further to that. So you're basing most of your support for your cap amount on the city of Winnipeg's columns, basically 20th percentile and 80th percentile. However, if you look at the other ones, Collier's, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield, none of them, there's only one that's, the lowest one is 5.25. So would they not have included buildings such as this in their study?
They would, but once again, it's an average, and based on, you know, the volume used to build the comparable cap rate studies. So, you know, depending on how many properties they're studying, that average is obviously going to fluctuate a bit. So in the city's case, we receive a high volume of sales, mailers, and that's all gone in as well. This is model driven based on, you know, the vast majority of information received.
Okay, thank you very much. So do you have anything in summation, Mr. Gretchen, on your presentation today?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just ask that the value be confirmed at $6,487,000 based on the presentation today. I do feel once again that cap rate of 4.95 is justified. Thank you.
Mr. Horsberg, do you have anything in summation for your presentation today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief summation. Ultimately, as per the Municipal Assessment Act, the onus is on the assessor to prove that their value is right. In this instance, the assessor has omitted approximately 13,000 square feet in this report. We don't know what rental rate has been applied. It's fully missing from the report. Secondly, the assessor has provided zero evidence in support of a sub-5 cap rate. I remember that this is a value as of April 1st, 2023, when anyone could go to the bank and purchase a GIC. The risk-free rate of return at that time was 5%. Applying a sub-5% cap rate, in effect, a rate of return below the risk-free rate of return, makes absolutely no sense. Fundamentally, the assessment department, the assessors, they're not in the market. They aren't talking to the business people, the hardworking people who are investing and developing these facilities. If as an appraiser you were to speak to some of these developers and say a below 5% cap rate, they'll laugh at you in your face. There's absolutely no support for this cap rate. And a good percentage of this property is missing from the assessment report here. So respectfully, I do ask that the benefit of if there is any doubt in your minds, that the benefit of the doubt be given to the taxpayer and that this assessment be revised. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And that will conclude this property at 725 Black Diamond Drive. We move on to the next property on the docket, which is item number 4, 115 Alexander. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. Ms. Harding, can you please swear in our applicant for this property?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
My name is Jared Story.
Would you please turn up your volume?
Oh, sure. Is that
Thank you.
is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll speak louder as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. We still have Mr. Gretchen here. Mr. Gretchen, can you please begin your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The file number for this property is 25-435, roll number 1308109200. The address is 115 Alexander Avenue. A roll year is 2026, reference date April 1st, 2023, and the assessed value is $3,172,000. It's one building consisting of two premises, and the year built was 1927. We have 17-foot wall heights, a land area of 73,410 square feet, and a leasable area of 195,000 square feet, with a land to plan ratio of 1.12. Moving to my page 3, you'll find maps showing the location of the property. It's located just off Main Street, close to the Disraeli Freeway. Pages 4, 5, and 6 are exterior to the building. Pages 7 through to 9 show the interior photos. These were taken from an inspection that was completed by the city of Winnipeg. I'm not certain as to the inspection date. So this was not an inspection completed by me. Moving to page 10, you'll find my rent comparables. So the lease start dates range from 2014 to 2020. The lease terms range from 5 to 19 years. Leased area is approximately 113,000 to 175,000 square feet, with wall heights ranging from 14 to 22 feet. Effective years built range from 1909 to 1995, and rents range from $2.69 to $3.81 a square foot. So not a lot of these comparables. There's not a lot of comparables this size with this age and the lower wall heights. So I only have 4 comparables to present here. Moving to my page 11, you'll find the workup for this property. So as mentioned, the total leasable square footage is 195,000 square feet. We again do have a blended rent, this time $2.50 a square foot, giving us a potential rent of $488,190. Vacancy applied is at 15%, giving us an effective gross income $414,961. Expenses at 3% and a $4 shortfall give us a net operating income of $285,512. The cap rate applied is 9%. So we did just go through our cap rate study, and you'll notice again, this one is on the other end of the 80th percentile. And this arrives at a value rounded of $3,172,000. Moving to my page 13, we'll find that capitalization rate chart. As mentioned, our cap rate is 9%, which falls outside the city's 80th percentile. It is also outside the market support from Colliers, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield. And that concludes my presentation. I respectfully ask that the value be confirmed at $3,172,000, and I'm now open for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Story, do you have any questions on the assessor's presentation?
Yes, sir. I have a few. Okay, Mr. Gretchen, I believe you said you have not visited or inspected this property for the purpose of our assignment today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and in terms of these photos, I don't know if you said, but can we agree these would have been taken some years ago?
As mentioned, I'm uncertain as to the inspection date.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going through your first page here. Now, this assessment, is this all model generated?
That's correct.
Okay. And is it fair to categorize this as a loft warehouse? Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, and I see that the actual year built is 1927 and the effective year built is 1927. Would that lead us to believe that there's been no substantial or permitted work to effectively update that effective year built? Is that a fair comment?
That is a fair comment. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and obviously this is, as you mentioned, this is not in what we'll call a traditional or a modern industrial park, but rather this is at the end of the old warehouse district, which obviously then became the East Exchange, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and that leads to a land to plan of about 1-to-1. Can we agree that that's exceptionally low for modern use?
That is very low. You've covered that also. That is a loft warehouse, so we are looking at, multiple stories, which is why you'll see the leasable area above the land to plan ratio.
Right. Okay. Now we haven't disputed the rent, so I'll leave it there. But safe to say that those buildings would be considered superior. Is that fair?
That is fair. There,
Okay.
there's not going to be a lot of rents as low as we have on this building. I am once again looking at comparables, primarily based on age, quality, condition, and this is the best of what we could get.
Okay.
Lower wall heights, older building. Yeah, that summarizes that to the best of my ability.
Okay. The vacancy loss at 15%, that is your standard prescribed allocation for loft warehouses, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that is modeled. That does not account for what I'm going to call vacant the contract vacancy. Like this building is currently 85% vacant, correct?
I was unaware of that. That was information provided to you after your inspection.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And I can certainly
so
speak to that now.
yeah, my
In
information was that it was owner occupied. So I didn't know the degree of a vacant space at the
Sure.
time.
Okay, and we can discuss that in my presentation. Now that capitalization rate of 9%, that is also model generated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, did you notice though that in the previous cycle the cap rate was 9.9?
I did not notice.
Okay, but knowing that now, does it not seem an excessive adjustment to drop the cap rate for this 100-year-old vacant building by 90 basis points? Does that not seem excessive to you?
I can't speak to that. Once again, the cap rate is model driven. The factors would be, based off of market evidence. That's how the model is deriving this value. So there was something in the market to make that adjustment. But I can't speak to the degree of the model changing from 9.9 to 9% and
Right. Okay, and since it is modeled, does the model have the capacity to look at this property on a site-specific basis? So can it consider location, obsolescence, and in terms of function? Are all of those factors considered?
Location would be considered. Beyond that, I'm uncertain. I can't speak to the model.
Okay, and just last question. Okay, so then is it safe to assume that this building has a heritage designation on it? Is it safe to assume then that the model does not consider that unique caveat on title effectively by way of a heritage designation? Is that fair?
That is fair. To my knowledge, I'm not certain of any factors regarding heritage when looking at the income approach and potential to generate rent. I know heritage more so comes into play when you're demolishing, rebuilding, putting additions. But in the extent of just generating a rental income, there's no factors I'm aware of for heritage status.
Okay, but can we agree, just with what we both know about heritage, based on the application of the heritage designation, would you agree with me that, as I think you've just alluded to, renovations and any permitted work that need be done then goes through a separate permitting process, which effectively leads to more cost to the owner, to be blunt? Is that a fair comment?
I would assume, but once again, it's not to my knowledge what the costs would be or anything regarding permits if there's any extra extent. I'm not aware of what's involved with heritage and, you know, what the parameters are.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gretchen. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Sharman, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Not at this time, thank you.
Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. Thank you. My question is in regards to the vacancy loss of 15%. In regards to vacancy loss for a building of this size, like for instance, if it's 85% vacant, what kind of a vacancy loss would the city then apply?
As Mr. Story mentioned, this 15% is already on the high end for us, and this is, you know, what the model applies based on, you know, this style of building, like loft warehouse. You are expecting there to be higher turnover, especially in the magnitude of the square footage here. I was under the impression that this was mostly owner occupied, so that vacancy that was being applied was for, you know, limited space that was being leased out. I wasn't aware of the 85% vacancy, but I don't have an adjustment for vacancy beyond the 15%. As mentioned, this is a model driven vacancy at 15%.
Okay, so in the model, what would be the highest vacancy rate that you've observed this cycle?
I want to say this one, to be honest, 15%.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is in regards to the shortfall, $4. So that's generated by the model. Is that reflective of this type of property as well?
Yeah, so shortfall is averaged across. We apply $4 across the board. So all our properties have a $4 shortfall, and that would be averaged based on, you know, what we're seeing from the high end to the low end.
Okay, okay. And do you have any documentation in regards to when the last inspection of this property was? I know the pictures you didn't have a date, but do you have? Has it been inspected in recent years?
I can try to quickly just go through a note here and see if there's. Sorry, I thought I was going to be able to pull it up quicker than I am.
That's okay.
Having the camera on this screen limits me to.
Okay. That's okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I just not have maybe a little follow-up to Ms. Anderson's question. So you're not aware just how much of this building is being currently used for functionality, is that correct?
That's correct. I did provide the income and expense mailer that was submitted for this cycle, and based on that, it shows Scott Bathgate Co. occupying 179,000 square feet, and WH Escott Co. operating in 16,000 square feet. So with Mr. Story's 85,000, my assumption would be that Scott Bathgate did not renew the lease, which expired on this income expense mailer December 31st, 2022. And I once again assuming owner occupied, was unable to find a new tenant, no longer needs the space would be my assumption. Whether or not there's any marketing for the space, I don't know if he's trying to lease it or what the case is there.
You're accepting the implication that there's 85% vacancy in this building? Is that correct?
Once again, based on what he's saying, he'll speak to it when he gets to his evidence. He emailed me a few days ago saying that he had results from an inspection that he completed. So I'm sure we'll get more information when he presents.
Okay, I have no further questions then.
Thank you.
Mr. Story, can you begin your presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, so while it's top of mind, this property was owner occupied for many years. Now, these are the folks who are related to the Nutty Club. So they ceased operations in 23. The building went predominantly vacant, but there is a group who warehouses birdseed. That's what goes on currently. And as of April 1, 2023, they were leasing 27,500 feet at a monthly gross rate of 4,490. I believe there was a question in the last file about step ups. There is a step up on this one. Effective July 1, 23, the rent will increase to 4,671 monthly gross. And then in 2025, and this was all known as of the reference date, but the group who are warehousing the birdseed were to expand their footprint to approximately 49,000 feet at a monthly rate of 8,500. Once again, that's gross. So
Was it, sorry, Mr. Story, was this submitted with your evidence, or are you just giving verbal
I'm giving
evidence?
this to you verbally. Yes, sorry about that.
Okay.
This is just verbal.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, no, I wanted to clear it up after the inspection because it is something of a complicated property. But upon interviewing the owner, property manager, and completing my my walkthrough, I have a better understanding of it now. So ultimately, as of April 1, 2023, the building was 86% vacant. 14% of the square footage was leased. And in that short term, so between 23 to 25, they expected an expansion of the space by that single tenant, again on a gross lease, to 25%. So germane to our reference dates here, shows us that there's a vacancy issue. Now it does ameliorate somewhat from 86% vacant to 75% vacant. However, that is still exceptionally high. My understanding of the loft warehouse application by the model has to do with functional space. Typically, these buildings have been reorganized, and not all of the square footage is necessarily usable. However, that does not speak to the physical vacancy or the amount of space that's being tenanted under contract. I mentioned the figures, the gross lease figures. Those basically run through those three schedules that I mentioned, from $1.96 gross, $2.04 gross, and then going up to $2.08 gross. So you can see here pretty quickly that those are rents that will cover costs. So there's a benefit to having somebody in the building. The location, as you can imagine, is quite challenging. So that is the current leasing activity. Ultimately, for our purposes today, we've accepted the assessor's income. That rent may very well be on the lower end. However, the contract rent that's being achieved. So we have accepted that $2.50 a foot, but we have made a slight adjustment to the vacancy to 20%. Mr. Gretchen had mentioned that this is the highest vacancy that he's seen. We've certainly seen vacancy as high as 25%. I understand that is the chronic vacancy allocation that the city would allow. So for our purposes today, we're not up to 25%, but we believe that 20% is more reasonable for our purposes today. Now, I had mentioned that the cap rate that was agreed upon in the previous cycle was 9.9%. We continue to apply that 9.9%. While there may have been positive headwinds in the industrial market, I'm not sure that this property would necessarily benefit. We're generally talking about the latest and greatest product, and I have to stress that this is a 100-year-old building in the downtown with one-to-one site coverage, which is considered obsolete by many standards. And there's also deferred maintenance. So I inspected this property, Mr. Chair, from the basement to the roof. So I've seen the whole thing. The roof needs $188,000 worth of work. The boiler is from 1973 and needs to be replaced. So there is a fair bit of deferred maintenance and costs that will need be borne by the owner. So with all that taken into account, we look at this assessment and it's a percentage change. It's an increase of 40%. That's on my page 23. An increase of 40% cycle over cycle to this building is not tied to the reality of its performance and its site-specific issues. Again, there is a heritage designation that was put on this building in 2017. Now we're supportive of heritage, to be certain, but we do have to be realistic and recognize the fact that a heritage designation it limits the type of work that you're able to do in terms of redevelopment, in terms of permitting. So that process becomes lengthier, it becomes more costly. So we do consider the heritage designation in our application of the capitalization rate. We've not adjusted it above the previous 9.9, but we believe that cap rate for this property is static. We've submitted an entire capitalization rate study, and effectively that will show you that on the lower end, the capitalization rate compression cycle over cycle should be 0 basis points. So we are following our evidence, our best evidence, and it does show us that we should not be seeing any compression on what I'll call the non-investment grade property. So with all of those figures taken into consideration, Mr. Chair, we do respectfully submit that the value ought not to exceed $2,257,000. That number once again is $2,257,000, and that is predicated on an NOI of $223,446, capitalized at a rate of 9.9%, which is again static to the previous assessment. The balance of my brief has some of these the building details. You can see it is indeed built in 1927. The model is saying that it's 2 premises, but ultimately those 2 tenants that are on the income and expense were the owner and a related company. So it operates as a large single tenant warehouse. I have photos from the interior, and that will give you a sense of the quality of the space. These are current photos. So the assessor's photos are, I'm not sure when they're from, but this is a modern set of photos that represents the property as it stands today. Again, I inspected the property and I can certainly speak to condition. But ultimately, we are requestfully submitting that the capitalization rate not be adjusted cycle over cycle and that the vacancy be adjusted to 20%. Again, that leads us to an estimated market value of $2,257,000. And with that, I'm happy to take your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gretchen, do you have any questions for the applicant on his presentation?
Just one. Regarding the vacancy, as mentioned, you did inform me now that it's at 85% for this cycle. You are requesting an adjustment to 20%. We did cover that it was majority of the building owner occupied. Now with this vacant space, are you aware of any advertising for filling this space?
Yeah, so they are working with a broker. It is being actively marketed. So it's not a question of that they're just letting it sit dormant. They are actively trying to get a tenant in. So yes, they are actively marketing the space.
All right, I think that covers my questions. I did pull up while you were speaking my inspection date. I finally found it. The photos were from 2021. So
okay,
not too old, but obviously what you took today or this week were a lot more reflective of the current status.
Thank you.
And that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Sharman, any questions?
No questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay. So if you're comparing the NOIs, your NOI is
My NOI is it's slightly lower based on the vacancy, but my NOI is 223,446.
223. And the city's is 285.
Right, and that's based on, let me just make sure, but I believe that is only based on vacancy. So my potential net market income is slightly higher, and I believe that's based on, it's almost a rounding issue because it is so large. It's 195,000 square feet. So we're not disputing that rent that effectively blends to, call it $2.50. It's the vacancy. We're not disputing the expenses or the shortfall. The NOI we're aligned. It's simply a matter of the cap rate and the vacancy, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's going down about 25%, that NOI, based on just a change in the vacancy of 5%.
It's 195,000 feet, so it's a huge premise. So,
okay, I just want to make sure that the figures are correct here.
Yep.
It just jumps out at me as being a big difference.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I ask a quick question in regards to the shortfall? That's being recast too, right?
no, we're using a shortfall of $4, which
Okay.
is the allocated. Now we looked at the expenses, and that's why I had mentioned that $2 per foot, based on what they're supporting or what they're recording for their expenses, it's a little lower than $4. But I did note that they're not using a management. They've not applied that, so that would bring that number lower. Sorry, if they were applying the management as you would, that number would be higher. So currently the shortfall is lower on their record than $4, but would likely be higher if they were to include a property management charge. But because it was owner occupied, they haven't included that. So, but all that to say, the shortfall is not in dispute here.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, I have no further questions. Anything in summation, Mr. Gretchen?
No summation from you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Anything
in summation, Mr. Story?
Yes, sir. Just very quickly, we do feel that the vacancy that we've applied here is appropriate given what we know about the leasing schedule over the next 2 years, and we do feel very strongly that capitalization rate of 9.9 ought to be reinstated. A drop of 90 basis points is aggressive, and of course that is, as I pointed out, is leading to an increase of 40% in assessed value, and we do not believe there's any market data to support that. So we feel very comfortable in our value, and we thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude this property at 115 Alexander. And we will now take there's a 5-minute recess. Good enough for everybody?
Could we maybe say 10? I just have to check with Mirek. It's normally his scheduled break right now, so I'm not sure if he's in the building or if he went to grab a coffee.
Okay. We'll come back at 10:20.
I will aim for that. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go offline then, Miss Harlan.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, our next property is item number 6, 83 Burnett Avenue. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. Ms. Harlan, can you please swear in the assessor and the applicants for this property?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Froelich, would you please state your full name?
Mirek Frolick.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Gentlemen, would you please stand? Would you please state your full name?
Trent Michael Mitchell.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. Sir, would you please state your full name?
It's Reynold Jacob Regier.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, for the applicants, are you going to do your presentation together, one part and the other part? And well, likewise for the assessors, can you both sides give me some feedback on that?
Well, we have offered the applicant the revised assessment on this property, but they've rejected it. So the presentation with regards to our new valuation will be addressed in the rebuttal. And so we'd like to just go forward with our presentation as scheduled.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'll read through the basics of, the property description and characteristics, and then Mirik's going to present on the recommended value and rebuttal.
okay. And for the applicants, are you gonna do two parts? One does one part, one does the other type of thing?
I think I'll be doing most of the speaking today.
Okay, fair enough. So, Mr. Rolick, can you begin your presentation then?
Well, it's
I'm going to start the
Oh, sorry, yeah, my bad.
No problem. All right. File number for this property is 25-216. The roll number is 0400-288-5300. Address 83 Burnett Avenue. Roll year 2026. Reference date April 1st, 2023. And we have an assessed value of $1,013,000. We are making a recommendation for a new value at $900,124. The building or the property consists of two buildings with one premise. The years built range from 1967 to 2016, and wall heights range from 8 to 14 feet. We have a leased area of 20,276 square feet and a leasable area of 5,000 square feet, giving us a land to plan ratio of 3.77. Moving to my page 3, you'll find the maps for the property. The subject's located in the northeast quadrant of the city. It's off Gateway Road, close to Chief Peguis Trail, and in the McLeod Industrial Area Furniture Park. Moving to my page 4, you'll find overhead photos of the property. Page 5 provides another overhead as well as some street view. And moving to my page 6 is where you'll find the rent comparables. So rent comparables range from lease start dates of 2018 to 2022, with lease terms from 3 to 10 years. The leased areas range from approximately 3,100 square feet to 8,800 square feet, with wall heights from 13 to 26 feet, and net rents ranging from $975 to $1,392 a square foot. We will skip the workup as mentioned. There is a revised value being presented. The square footage just stays the same at 5,000 square feet. And for this property, see, there was, page 11, 12, and 13 was the income and expense mailer that was submitted. There wasn't too much information that we could pull from it because it consisted of more so their business income than the actual property, but it is owner occupied, so there wouldn't be a net rent or an official rent in place. And to that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Mirik on the revised value presentation.
essentially what we did with our presentation is that all we did is we kept the model rent that we had generated at $10.33. The applicant had used $11 rent for his valuation process. We maintained our 1.5% vacancy allowance, and we're going to be addressing that issue in after the applicant makes his presentation. We had also had issues with regards to the shortfall, and we did make a significant adjustment to the cap rate, where we changed the cap rate from 5% to 5.65%. And we also maintained that there's a 16 by 24 foot cold storage building for valuation purposes. When it was first built, it had a $15,000 permit, and our valuation for that for the cold storage area is 32,000 square feet. Neither myself or Mr. Gretchen have not toured this property. Once again, so our valuation for this property is $900,000. Using our parameters, and the only difference occurring is on the cap rate. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Regier, you have any questions for the assessor?
Yeah, I just have one question. Again, in regards to the cap rate. So now being aware that you've revised your cap rate to being that 5.65%. Understanding that cap rates are a reflection of return on investment and perceived risk. What about the subject property itself would result in you using that 5.65% capitalization rate?
Well, this property is very, very small, so usually size is an important consideration when it comes to cap rate valuations. What we could have done is we could have actually gone with a higher rent if we used your market rent, but we wanted to be true to our process. So we kept our 1033, our model generated rent, as opposed to $11. And so, you know, we feel comfortable with the cap rate adjustment that we've made. And based on the overall usage of the building on a square foot basis, we feel comfortable with the value. We're mindful of the limitations of the property. It's an old, you know, 60% of it was built in 1965. 40% of it was built in 2007. So there are aspects of the building that are newer that would be reflective of the higher building standards that had taken place with the newer built property. And so overall, I think our cap rate is very reasonable. Our adjusted cap rate is very reasonable.
That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessors?
Yes, just to clarify your recommendation then, you're staying with a NOI of $49,049. And then that's at 5.65%
Yeah.
cap. And then so that equals?
Yeah, it's 868, 124. No, 868, 124. And then we're adding $32,000 for the cold storage building, which is 16 by 24 feet, which has a value of $32,000.
Okay, and that's how you come to the 900,000. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sharman, any questions for the assessors?
That was my question, but asked and answered. Thank you.
I think mine have been asked and answered as well. Okay, the applicants may proceed with your presentation.
Sure, thank you. I'm not sure if you guys have my report in front of you that I had created for Mr. Regier. If you just want to flip to page 28, just quickly. Mine isn't in color, but I think that the on page 28, the outlined area of the property and just seeing the neighborhood. Burnett Avenue is kind of I don't know how to put it for lack of a better term, an unassuming industrial area. It's not located in a major industrial park. It's kind of in a very smaller pocket in that northeastern part of, you know, kind of on the border, East Kelowna and North Kelowna. So it's not in a major industrial park. And sure it is somewhat near Chief Peguis Trail, but it's not really near any other of those major transportation routes like St. Boniface Industrial Park would be, or, you know, the St. James Industrial Park for that matter. So that's just one location aspect of the property that I'd like to highlight. You guys want to flip to my my rental summary here. It's on page 42 of the report. The rents, you know, they vary in they go from between $6 and $12.29 per square foot. The leasable areas, they generally differ, they're about, in that low 2,080 square feet to about 6,000 square feet for that high end. Finding those market rental rates are, not easy for subject properties. They're in that subjects area on Burnett Avenue. So we had to look for ones that were, in kind of smaller industrial areas. The only one that was kind of near us was actually number 9 on Goldsby. It is in that East Colony kind of area, not really a known industrial area, but it's just a smaller pocket. So those were chosen. And again, I think as Mr. Gretchen had mentioned, the choice of my rental rate being $11 and there's a $10.33 per square foot. They're somewhat similar. So that was what we had found in our selection. If you'd like to flip to page 50 of my report, my capitalization rates. Again, they go from between 5.98% and 7.82%. These are capitalization rates that we have found in our course of our work as appraisers or from trusted sources. These are market rates that we've found to be reliable. And again, we also used the Q1 2023 cap rate report from CBRE, which was also included in the 3 main brokerages, I think, that were also quoted in the cap rates supplied by the city, those being from CBRE, Colliers, and Cushman & Wakefield. So my selection of 6.75 was chosen, and again, that does fall within that 20th to 80th percentile range. The new selection, I guess, from the city's side of being 5.65% does fall on that lower end of that range of 20 to 80th percentile. And again, our selection, knowing that capitalization rates are based on, return on investment and perceived risk. Again, given that the subject is 60% of it was constructed in 1967, I believe. The subject isn't exactly your typical investor grade property. It is more of a, for lack of a better term, a mom and pop building. It's been occupied by Mr. Aguirre here for his business. He lives in that northeastern quadrant, so he's there. It's close to his building or close to his residence. It's not exactly that desirable area like an industrial park. That's one of the major ones again. It's just it's a mom and pop type building. So again, when you're trying to figure out a market rental rate, it's not exactly easy, but we've obviously done one, and they're somewhat similar. So again, for figuring out that risk and what that perceived risk would be and the potential rate of return, given the location of the building not being in a major industrial area and the age of the property as well, overall, we believe that 6.75% number is more than reasonable, and that's what results in that. I think the estimated value from that is $745,000. Sorry. If you'll flip, I also completed a direct comparison approach to the property. There was one property that was located on Burnett Avenue, though that was the most dated sale that we had found. The other properties were somewhat similar in their square footages, but locations did vary a little bit. The range from the direct comparison approach is $79.94 to $178.89 per square foot. The direct comparison approach was completed because it provides sort of a check for reasonableness. So if the direct comparison approach didn't come up with a value that was similar to the income approach, then there would be some questions for concern. The direct comparison approach resulted in a value of $750,000, which was only $5,000 more than the income approach provided. So the numbers the city had from their initial estimate of the assessed value, sorry, was $1,013,000, which is $202.60 per square foot. Again, looking at the range from the direct comparison approach of 79.94 to 178.89 per square foot, that would fall above that range. And again, the city's first offer of 908,000, based on the subject's 5,000 square feet, that results in a value, an estimated value, sorry, of $181.60 per square foot, which again still falls above the range of the comparables found in the direct comparison approach. So again, for a check for reasonableness, those two numbers, the first assessed value and their first offer of 908,000, doesn't fall within the range, so that calls for some questioning. So our estimated value of $750,000 does fall within that range, and the numbers from the income approach seem to support value from the direct comparison approach and vice versa. And so that was our findings from the report. That's all I have, and I'll open up any questions if you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the assessors on the applicant's presentation?
I think all of our questions will be addressed in the rebuttal.
Okay. Ms. Sharman, any questions for the assessors?
Not at this time,
It's for the applicant.
for the applicant.
Oh, for the applicant, sorry.
Not at this time.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
So on your summary on page 52, you had a net operating income of 50,000, 33 capitalized, 6.75 to get 745. So did you take into account that additional building?
So again, to provide a value on a building that is unheated, that has no power to it, and no water servicing, that building, the per square foot wasn't applied to that building. But if someone were to be leasing this property, it has to be considered that it would be there. So while that extra square footage of the 384 square feet, I believe it is, wasn't included in that area, it was considered in the choice of the estimated net rent rate. It has to be.
It has to be, meaning
The building, if someone were to be leasing that property, that building is there, it exists. So while someone would be leasing the subject property, the main building, the fact is that 380 square feet is there. It would be utilized by someone that would be occupying that main building.
I have no further questions. Then I understand the assessors have a rebuttal.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, I put the rebuttal in your OneDrive, and I'll give the rebuttal to the applicant as well.
Okay. Does everybody have the rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay, you may proceed with the rebuttal.
Thank you. The assessment department's recommendation is by increasing the cap rate for this property, using the assessment department's parameters and maintaining that a 16 by 24 foot cold storage building that was built in 2016 with a permit value of $15,000. We've maintained the model rent even though it is lower than the recommended rent by the applicant. We do not understand how the applicant came up with a $7 shortfall on an owner-occupied property. Our normal shortfall rate's $4, and usually the owner-occupied shortfall rates would be significantly lower because they don't incur the same expenses as, say, a flex warehouse or a multi-tenanted warehouse. Our new value is $900,000. And as I just go through the presentation here right now, just to clarify what was already spoken, we're using the 1033 rent. We're using the 1.5% vacancy allowance, $4 shortfall, 3% for others, to come up with a net operating income of $49,049. Utilizing a 5.65% cap rate, comes up with a value of $868 plus $32,000 for the building. That value is determined by from Marshall Swift documentation, or now CoreLogic, and which is how we came up with the $900,000. Page 2 of my brief, vacancy analysis. If you look at the chart above us, you can see the two closest areas to the subject property are in East Kildonan and Elmwood, with the subject property being in Elmwood. At no period of time, based on the applicant's evidence, has the East Kildonan area had a 4% vacancy. 0% in 2022, 0.3% in 2021, 0.7% in 2020, 0.3% in 2019, and 0.4% in 2018. The Elmwood area, similarly low, slightly higher, but still very low at 1.1%. I guess there was a vacant tenant in 2025, or a tenant had moved because the inventory is very small in the Elmwood area as compared to other industrial parks. So they had a jump at 4.5% in 2021, and then back to 1.3, 1.6, and 3.3 in the following years. The overall vacancy rate for the city of Winnipeg on a yearly basis was never greater than 4%, but the applicant has used one for his valuation. I've already stated how Eastwood and Elmwood has lower than 4%, and it's never had a vacancy of more than 1%. So based on this data, we believe a 1.5% vacancy is very reasonable for the subject property. Capitalization analysis. Cap rates are very subjective in nature, and there are two cap rates that brought us questions with regards to the applicant's valuation process. 1308 Chevrier is most like the subject property in terms of size and the year built, and it has a 5.99% cap rate. The 2019 sales per square foot for this property is $172 without doing a time adjustment to bring it up to the April 1st, 2023 reference date. Common appraisal theory is if you have a reference date of April 1st, 2023, you do a paired sales analysis to bring it up to the subject property in terms of using to the proper reference date. Comparable number 7 at 700 Mission is much larger than the subject property. However, the reported cap rate on the income expense mailer is significantly lower than what's been stated. The reported cap rate used by the applicant is 7.82%, which conflicts with the 6.1% that's in our documentation. On page 3, this is the income and expense mailer that we have for 700 Mission. Is everyone on the page 3?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So what you'll see is that you'll have the July 10th, 2019 sales date at $2,850,000. You have the details of the sales that they're with regards to the subject property. And then on the next page, they have a reported cap rate in the middle portion of 6.1%. And so this is what we received from the new owner, stating that this cap rate is 6.1% for this property, which conflicts with the 7.82% that the applicant's using. Furthermore, in another piece of documentation that was included with the sales listing for this property, they've included an investment analysis. So if you go through they talk about the tendency, the different financial aspects of it, and under projected yields, they're also showing a 6.1% cap rate. So we have two separate pieces of documentation. One that was public knowledge, the other one provided by the property owner, representing a 6.1% cap rate for this property. So this is why, and we're mindful of the fact we do cap rate analysis. Cap rates are very subjective, but the point is that's a big difference in terms of valuation process. The only other cap rate at 6.744% is 20 times larger than the subject property. When it comes to cap rates analysis, size is important, age is important, and wall heights are important. Sales comparison analysis. The best sales comparables are usually ones that are similar age, size, and proximity to the subject property. The two best sales comparables are on 131 Burnett, even though it's slightly different in terms of how it's a two-story building as opposed to a one-story building, and 15 Stapleton. Both of these, like one of them's on the same street, and the Stapleton property is less than 5 kilometers away from the subject property, so it's in the same area. These properties sold for $155.80 a square foot and $178.89 a square foot on April 30th, 2019 and December 1st of 2021. An adjustment would be required to bring these to the April 1st, 2023 reference rate, which would result in a higher sales price per square foot. Only two of the applicant's comparables are below the $150 a square foot requested by the applicant, and they're 35% larger than the subject property. So once again, if we look at 131 Burnett, which is on the same street as the subject property, it sold for $631,000. Area is slightly smaller than the subject property at 4,050 square feet as opposed to 5,000 square feet. Land to building ratio is slightly higher, but I don't believe that this is the original building built in 1965, as opposed to the subject property where 40% of it was built in 2000 and 2007. Our next best comparable, in our opinion, would be number 7 at 15 Stapleton, sold on December 1st of 2021, $800,000. Close, a bit larger than the first one, but still smaller than the second one, selling at $178.89 a square foot. Built in 1961, similar land to building ratios as subject property, and there's a 13-foot wall height here. So overall, when we're looking at our valuation process, once the time adjustments would be required for the sales comparison approach to value, we believe $180.02 a square foot is a fair valuation for the subject property. I am open to questions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the applicants on the assessor's rebuttal presentation?
Yeah, I guess just one question or a couple questions about the comparables you mentioned for the direct comparison approach. I believe that comparable number 1, while it's located on the subject's same street, it says that, I believe it to be more of a 2-story office building. Is that correct? So the comparison of an industrial building.
When I pulled up the field furniture of this property, it was truly a situation where it's a 50 to 50% ratio on of the building. And so what happened is the field form showed 50% was warehousing space and 50% was office. So it is a bit larger. It is a bit higher, but it also has lower. It also has only 10-foot ceilings.
Okay.
So which would explain, wall height, which would be inferior to the subject property.
Okay,
But once again, the sales date is almost it's 3.5, almost 4 years away from the reference date.
mm-hmm. Okay, and with comparable number 7, 15 Stapleton, do you believe those are truly similar is it a truly similar comparable location to Burnett Avenue, considering that it's located near the commercial buildings and the commercial strip of Nairn? I believe it's located really in close proximity to Lux Furniture, and just a little bit north of this comparable as well is a fast food location, the Jolly Bees.
Oh yeah, it's off of Nairn is a busier street than Gateway, for sure. But the type of location, it's an anomaly. Like 15 Burnett is not a true industrial park, and neither is 15 Stapleton. And so, but what happens here is, without doing the time adjustment, the sale price is a lot. You'd have to do a time adjustment from the $179 sales per square foot, which is very close to what we have here. And the point is, with the Stapleton property, it's built in 1961. 40% of the building wasn't built in 2007. So usually the age of a building will affect the cap rate. And considering that 40% of this building of the subject property was built in 2007, I believe that would be more representative of a lower cap rate in terms of valuation process, which would also be reflective upon the value that I've presented here today. Is there any other questions?
No further questions.
Ms. Sharman, any questions on the assessor's rebuttal?
I do not. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson, any questions on the rebuttal?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, just back to, so on your page 6 here, Mr. Frolick, there, here, excuse me, you are just providing some direct sales comparisons in response to the applicants?
No, on page 6, that's the applicant's evidence.
The applicant's evidence, okay, yeah, okay.
Because the applicant had used different comparables to be more reflective of the subject property, but in my opinion, they're not reflective of what the actual subject property is. And what's interesting about the Stapleton property that I had used when I looked at it, the front part would be office, similar to the subject property, and then the back part is an auto body shop, if I do believe. So in terms of layout and functionality, they're very similar. But I'm not hiding from the fact that the Burnett property on 131 Burnett is a 2-story building. But that ratio is 50-50.
Okay, I have no further questions on the rebuttal. So anything in summation from the assessor in their presentation?
I think overall, because this is a model generated, initially it was a model generated value, that 5% cap rate did seem low. I felt I'm being reasonable with regards to using a higher cap rate for this property. Our rent is lower than the applicant's rent, and I had serious issues with regards to not including a building that a 1614 by 24 square foot storage building that does have value, that did have a permit value of $15,000 about maybe 8 years ago or so. I have issues with regards to the applicant's vacancy analysis, and I also have issues with regards to the $7 shortfall that the applicant had used, which is why I'm confident with my $900,000 value here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything in summation from the applicants on their presentations today?
Could I just ask what was the value of the storage building then that you have now presently?
It's in our brief, but it was $32,000.
How is that? from 15,000, when was it built?
2016 is when the original permit had been taken out.
So it's over doubled since then.
That's according to the costing information that we have, correct?
Seems fine. I have one more question. So can you admit that I've been overpaying for the last few years? And how did the city come up with 1,013,000 and now you're willing to reduce it already? So my question is, my 2025 taxes, I overpaid, obviously, and probably previous to that, I guess I should be more aware of what's going on. But would you admit to that fact that I have been overpaying?
Well, you know, we send out the assessment notices every 2 years. You've appealed this property prior to 2026. You know, we do a model-generated valuation process. There'll be adjustment moving forward with regards to the value in 2027.
Okay, if there's nothing further in summation, then that will conclude.
Sorry, I'll just have a few short words here. So the city and our numbers at the end of the day in terms of our net operating incomes are very similar. And again, it comes down to the capitalization rate that is selected and utilized. Again, while I will say that my selection of my 6.75 number does fall within that range of the 20th to 80th percentile. Again, given the quality of the building, more of a mom and pop type building, not that investment grade building. Given its location, not in a major industrial park, in a more of a quieter, unassuming industrial area, smaller pocket, as you may. Mind you, it is, again, 60% of it was built in 1967. And for those reasons, I believe the capitalization rate selection should be higher, and that 6.75% number is more accurate of the type of property that it is. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. That will conclude this property at 83 Burnett Avenue then. Thank you very much for your presentations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next property is item number 72008 Logan. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. And Mr. Gretchen, you are still remaining as the assessor?
That's correct.
And Mr. Horsberg is available?
Hello, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, there's a preliminary issue with this property. Could we take a 5-minute recess so I could give the assessor a call?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, back in order. We're continuing with the property at 2008 Logan. Is there a preliminary issue that needs to be discussed?
So the city of Winnipeg has made an offer to settle. Our issue, there was a couple issues regarding inconsistencies in our data and what was being presented by the applicant. We had discussions on it, but were never able to make contact with the owner regarding acceptance of the offer. We had a discussion, and we are going to go ahead with making a recommendation for this value, and then address with the owner and the agent having updates made to the information that we have on this property, pending an inspection for the next cycle.
Okay, so you wish to proceed as per normal procedures then?
No, I'm gonna read through the property details and make a recommendation.
Yeah, okay, yeah, with a recommendation. Okay, fine. Carry on, please, with your presentation.
File number for this property is 25-344. The roll number is 0756901 and the address is 2008 Logan Avenue. The roll year is 2026, reference date is April 1st, 2023, and the initial assessed value was $1,601,000. This is one building with one premise, built in 2002, 21-foot wall heights, a land area of 18,906 square feet. A leasable area we have on file as 9,790 square feet and a land to plan ratio of 1.93. Our recommendation for this property will be for $1,555,000. And based on my conversation with the agent, this would be a value accepted by them.
I will present that to Mr. Horsberg. Do you accept the assessor's recommendation of $1,555,000?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we accept. There is some confusion around the square footage. We weren't able to resolve the confusion in time for the hearing. I agree with your recommendation. We will accept and conclude the process should that be acceptable to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Ms. Anderson?
My only question is, just do you have a breakdown of, like, does the NOI remain the same and you adjusted the cap rate, or you're just presenting a number valuation?
I'm just going to pull up the numbers here in front of me.
Right.
There was no change to the cap rate. The NOI, there was a change, and that's based on an adjustment to rent. So everything, all the other parameters stay the same. Vacancy stays at 4%, shortfall $4, and 3% for expenses. And then cap rate remains the same, 6.35. So it's simply an adjustment to rent.
So what's the new NOI?
So going from our initial value, we had 9,790 square feet with a rental rate of $11.32. This was an NOI of $101,632, and the adjustment is a rent to $11 a square foot, which provides an NOI of $98,715.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
And what was the cap rate?
The same, 6.35.
Any questions, Ms. Sharman?
No, those were my questions, but could you perhaps just restate the proposed new assessment value?
$1,555,000.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. The applicant has accepted the recommendation from the Assessment Taxation Department. That will conclude item number 72008 Logan. And Mr. Horsberg, I believe you are done for today, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to thank Mr. Gretchen. I do appreciate the time and effort that he put into resolving this file, and I do thank him for that. So, and thank you to the yourself, Mr. Chair, and then to the panel members today as well.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Have a good day. Yes, you too. Mr. Chair, can we take a short break? Our next applicant is not in the waiting room.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute break.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Chair, here he is.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
will not take a 5-minute break then. Okay, our next property on the docket is item number 8, 2465 Dugald Road. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. Ms. Harlan, can you please swear in the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Neufeld, would you please state your full name?
Rocky Neufeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Gretchen, can you please begin your presentation?
All right, I just want to start by mentioning that this item and the next item are the same property. The appeals are just for the roll years, so 2025, 2026. With this building being a brand new build, it wasn't added until partway through the 2025 cycle. So to start, our file number is 25-497. The roll year is 090104755135. Address 2465 Dugald Road. Roll year 2025. Reference date April 1st, 2023. And we have an assessed value of $3,548,000. It's one building with one premise, built in 2025 and has wall heights of 26 feet. The land area is 172,382 square feet, and the leasable area is 12,360 square feet, giving us a land to plan ratio of 17.41. This is 9,900 square feet of main floor space, an additional 2,460 square feet of second floor space. As mentioned, it was added to the roll June 1st and was inspected June 19th, 2025. Moving to my page 3, you'll find the maps with the location of the subject property. This is located in the southeast quadrant of the city, just off of Plessis Road. Page 4 includes exterior photos of the property. Page 5 and 6 provide the interior photos of the property. And moving to my page 7, you'll find my rent comparables. The lease start dates range from 2012 to 2022, with lease terms ranging from 4 to 10 years. Leased areas range from approximately 5,000 square feet to 14,000 square feet, and wall heights from 20 feet to 29 feet. Effective year built on these properties from 1995 to 2020, so nothing as new as the subject property being built this year. And the average rents range from $9.60 a square foot to $22.28 a square foot. Moving to my page 8, you'll find comparables for additional land value, which we have applied to this property. As mentioned, the land to plan ratio was 17.41. So there are 4 comparables included here. These comparables, for comparable 1, we had square footage of just under 120,000 square feet. Comparable 2, 84,000 square feet. Comparable 3, 61,000 square feet. Comparable 4, 55,000 square feet. The sale dates for these were between 2019 and 2022, and sales price per square foot ranged from $7.08 a square foot to $17.94 a square foot. The land value applied to this property is on a net area of 77,600 square feet at a net rent rate of $8.35 a square foot. This brings us a total excess land value of $648,000. You'll find that on my line item on the next page, page 9 for the workup, under additional land value. So moving to my workup on page 9, as mentioned, the leasable area of the building is 12,360 square feet. We have a rent of $12.34 a square foot, giving us a potential rent of $152,522. The vacancy is 1.5%, giving us effective gross income of $150,234. Expenses at 3% and a $4 shortfall provide us a net operating income of $144,985. Cap rate applied is at 5%. This gives us a total of $2,899,700. With addition to that land value of $648,000, we arrive at our rounded value of $3,548,000. Moving to my page 11, we'll again find the cap rates. Our cap rate, as mentioned, was 5%. So this is below the city's 20th percentile. As mentioned in the past, we are looking at a brand new building, quality, condition, age, height, as well as it being a single tenant owner occupied space. I do believe that the 5% cap rate is justified below the 20th percentile. Moving to my page 13, you'll find the permitted value for construction of this building at $4 million. Page 14 was submitted with the building permits and shows, I guess it's a good representation of the current layout of the building on the subject lot, showing the vacant side of the lot with plans for future development. And then page 15 and 16 were the permitted drawings for this building. And that concludes my presentation. I respectfully ask the value to be confirmed at $3,548,000, and I'm now open for questions.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. And I want to just start off. The 2 years are identical. They're just split because one was based on section 30, I've forgotten already, 301 of the charter, and the other is based on 14.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act. But just confirm for the board and the assessor, all in agreement that these two are the same?
Correct. I kind of covered that briefly at the start there, just with the building not being added to the roll until June 1st. There would have been a supplemental notice prior to June where the assessment was based on land value.
Yeah, no, but we're essentially dealing with two different, it's 340 of the charter and then 14.2 of the act, and they require us to appeal and quote the act. So this is why it's split up for us today.
Yeah.
So there's no, we're just going to go through one, right? For one value, and I'm assuming everybody's on board with that?
I am.
Well, we're going to have to go through both of them, but the board will note that they are the same, and you can proceed accordingly. Okay.
Okay. Just that's okay. And what is this use of this property?
Industrial warehouse.
Well, so you got pictures here. Did you not take these pictures? I'm just wondering, on page 5?
I did not inspect the property.
Okay.
On page 5, this would have been done through someone in the department inspected it at the time of adding the building to the roll.
Okay. So, I mean, there's no dispute that it's a tool rental facility?
No dispute.
Okay, that's all I was asking. And owner occupied, correct?
Correct, to my knowledge.
Okay. And the sale on page 2 was as unimproved, is that correct?
Sorry, could you say that again?
The sale listed on page 2 was as unimproved, is that correct?
That's correct. I didn't speak to the sale as it was prior to development.
Okay. Do you know at what stage or what date this was inspected? I'm just trying to figure out if you were in there. I see that hasn't been completed, the construction at the time you.
The inspection was done June 19th.
June 19th of 25.
2025, yeah.
And when was that put on the roll?
Was added on the roll June 1st of 2025.
So these pictures were taken after it was added to the roll.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if the date should then be deemed correct when what I see is an unfinished building here. They appear still to be a work in progress from what I see here. When was the occupancy permit? I mean, I can look it up too, but I was just wondering if you had the occupancy permit date handy.
I don't have it on hand. I can search it. I was just
Okay.
looking for the tenancy date to see what was reflective for when they were added in as a tenant, and I have that as June 1st, 2025. You know, based on these photos, it looks to be an occupied building. So I haven't been in the building. I'm not sure if you have inspected, if you know, the condition has changed from these photos. In terms of, I guess what you're speaking to is floor finish and
Well, yeah, let's just go back to the dates. I'm looking at the occupancy permit. It was issued June 19th, which is you said the date of your inspection, and this was placed on the roll June 1st. So even legally, it was not could not be operated for the first 18 days of June. Isn't that correct?
once again, I'm uncertain as to the legality. Any date that would have been added would be confirmed with them. So usually when occupancy permits come out, there's an inspection done, there's phone calls, you meet with building, either the business or the building owner, to confirm the date that they've moved in. You know, that was not
Okay,
something.
well, that's beside the point. The issue is legally they did not have the right to occupy and use the premises until June 19th. Is that correct?
Once again, I'm uncertain as to the legality. I also don't know what percentage was finished when they moved in, what square footage they were using.
Okay, and the land that you describe, what was the designation of the land? Was this surplus or excess? Oh, excess, I see it. Sorry, that's page 8, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the valuation technique applied, where did this come from? The idea of adding land value to an income value. Do you have we call it an authority, which is somewhere down the road someone has published a brilliant piece of work to say you can do valuation this way. Do you have such authorities?
I am completely uncertain to this.
Okay.
This is a new style of property to me. I've, you know, as a junior in this position, I've usually have someone else to present this information. I was on my own with this one. The model, you know, everything presented was model based,
Right.
and the additional land value was part of that.
Well, is the property held under a single title or are there multiple titles?
As far as I'm aware, it's one title, but I'm not certain.
Okay, sorry, I'm just
It's one roll. The property,
right.
it could be demise. Once again, that's why they're considering it excess, is there is access to it.
Okay, well, the question then is, at this point in time, is there one title or are there multiple titles?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, bear with me 1/2 second, and I think I have a title search here, and I just want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. Yes, I do. I have a title in front of me for the entire property. Now, as a single property with a single title, how do you go about, and I'm reading from an authority, how do you go about proving that it has the potential to be sold separately?
I mean, I'm not certain that the intentions are to sell it as they've shown intentions for future development, but there's no indication if it would be for their own personal use or to sell in the event that it would be something that they're selling.
Right.
A plot would have to be conditioned for, but I guess the end of the day, it's just the accessibility that makes it.
Well, excess land, and I'm reading from an authority, has the potential to be sold separately. Now, in order to do that, do you know what you'll have to do in the city of Winnipeg to get it to be sold separately?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, so you're not aware that you have to get a subdivision approved on titles then?
I am aware of that, yes.
Okay, and you're aware when you do that, you have to pay the city a dedication fee? Is that correct?
That I did not know.
Okay, and then you have to get development approval from the city of Winnipeg?
That's correct.
Okay, so at this point in time, have any of those three steps been undertaken?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
I mean, once again, the large land to plan ratio is more or less what triggers excess or surplus land, and the difference being the accessibility.
yeah, but I guess my question to you was that appears to be some sort of internal policy. You have nothing that I mean, I'm reading from the Appraisal of Real Estate, third Canadian edition, published by UBC and the Appraisal Institute. Do you have such a book of your own inside the department that says this is the correct way to do this?
I would assume so, once again.
I don't think you do, but anyway, okay, thanks. The land itself.
I'm sorry, I'm just, when I said assume, so like I'm speaking to the fact like this isn't a unique property where this is the only one that this method has been applied to.
It's doesn't mean it's right. Okay, so now just getting to your workup and on this value part of it, that's on the page. I lost it here. Sorry. Page 8. So your model says 77,600 square feet has been deemed excess. Is that the right number?
That's correct.
Okay. And when your model does this, does it take into account the unique property rights that are attributable to every piece of land?
I'm uncertain. I can't speak to the model.
You have overhead pictures in your work?
I do not.
And just to be fair to that, I did email Mr. Gretchen earlier and told him I was going to be going down this line of questioning. And I know it was late, but I don't want to surprise anyone. Okay, you got a picture on survey on page 14. Now, can you see the measurement from the rear of the building to the end of the lot? Is there one shown there? I got some numbers I can't really read here.
Yeah, I can't tell what the measurements are.
So there's two sets of rail behind this property. One is a main line and the other is a rail yard. Did you measure the distances to the main line and to the rail yard?
I did not.
Okay, so you're aware, and this is not in the official city bylaw, but there's a general setback of 30 meters from a main line and then 300 meters from a rail yard. This is a new municipal standard that is, well, they're not changing existing properties, but new ones have to consider this.
I'm not aware to the setbacks.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And
Mr. Neufeld, can I just ask a question of you here? Where do you, on the assessor's evidence, where do you see this rail line?
Yes, and I asked him if he was aware there was one there, and he doesn't have it in his evidence. And I stopped my questioning at that point in time.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, I'm not going down asking things he didn't put in. On that same picture on page 14, there is one road access to Dougal. Is that correct?
That's what it shows, correct.
Okay, so if this land were to be excess and sold separately, would they not need their own approach?
I mean, it appears to be based on what they're presenting here. It shows separate fire lanes. So I'm assuming
No approach. That's where it goes on to Google.
the accessibility of it looks to be adequate for
But is there one approach on this plan right now?
at this time. At this time, yes.
Okay, and if you had to put a second approach in to satisfy the west side, say there were a separate user, how far away does that have to be from the existing approach?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, would it be permissible?
Once again, I'm uncertain.
Okay, that's fine. On page, sorry, oh, I got it here. Page, 13, you've got a permit and it says total declared construction value 4 million. Do you have any other information on the costing of this property?
I do not.
Okay. On page, now I'm not going to have any questions on the rent, vacancy, etc., because we've done a different approach, and you'll see how there's a balance there. So I just want to address the cap rate. 5% was, and this was model driven then?
That's correct.
And in your model, do you know if there are any tool rentals places that sold that were investment properties?
I'm uncertain.
Would not there be a different cap rate for a facility that rents tools to people than one that is a warehouse?
I'm not certain. It's an industrial property. The cap rate, based on my knowledge, is applied across the industrial properties. I don't know that because we're doing mass appraisal. This isn't a site specific cap rate.
That was my next question. You just have one set of industrial cap rate standards that are applied for various reasons on all grades of industrial, whether they're an open pit smelter or a 45-foot high warehouse, correct?
Correct in the sense that, yes, the cap rate's model driven across all.
And on that page 11, you've just brought in numbers from 3 real estate brokers. Do you know if they break down their properties on what constitutes an industrial cap rate?
I am not sure.
Well, each one of these companies has a definition as to what they include. That's not in your workup, is it?
Nope.
Okay. And for the record, the city never sought permission to publish these rates, did they?
Pardon me?
The city never sought permission to publish these rates or an excerpt thereof, did they?
Once again, I'm uncertain. As long as I've been doing this job, these rates or these studies have been included in our cap rate presentation.
No, I knew you'd answer that. I just want to get in the record there. Okay. So you're not aware that, I'll speak for Colliers, we don't track buildings like this in our cap rate.
I don't know what you guys track.
Okay, but you're presenting though, and this is your support evidence. So you weren't aware that we don't track it. Why is it here?
Once again, this is included with all of our presentation material. The city of Winnipeg bases their cap rates within our percentiles with market information that we receive. In terms of sporting information, I can't speak to why it's included or what's involved with coming up with each study from each supporting firm.
I'm just going to finish. So I just want to read something. 744. Okay. Sorry, maybe I was going to go back to the income for a bit. Vacancy loss. Do you have a different vacancy rate? How are the vacancy rates assigned? Do you do it by building type, area, generally?
Generally by area.
By area. So if you had, again, an open pit smelter located in St. James, it might have a better vacancy rate than a older industrial building in Elmwood, or vice versa.
Yeah, I think,
It's the region first and not the use.
I don't know which comes first.
Okay,
I mean, we're looking at a single tenanted, owner occupied brand new building. I don't see, especially being built this year, there being any vacancy issues, but once again, it's a model percentage at 1.5.
well, so I'm just wondering this, when you get your stats and you build them up, you take them from the mailers, right?
To the best of my knowledge.
Right. So a mailer from a modern investment warehouse with multi-tenants is going to give you vacancy rate information. If you got the mailer from this property, what would they tell you about vacancy?
I mean, this mailer would be past the reference date, but the fact that it's a single tenant owner occupied, there wouldn't be vacancy.
Right. But that's because they're not offered on the market, right? They're like the text for
If this was offered on the market, I would assume it to be, a highly desirable property.
I understand, but I guess what I'm getting to is when you have vacancies and you're trying to determine what the market rates are, to what purpose would a single tenant owner occupied building provide any support? Wouldn't you think logically you should be relying on investment properties that are actually put on the market for rent, not ones that are not put on the market? And I have the Johnson report here, and I believe they have several thousand entries of 869 entries of properties that rent, and they establish a vacancy rate. They don't track properties that are owner occupied. The city doesn't do that, or
I would assume that they don't as well,
okay.
but once again, I'm not sure.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. They've been asked and answered. Thank you.
Ms. Sharman, any questions?
No, my questions have also been asked and answered.
So just on the vacancy again, what would you, if this wasn't a new building, then would the vacancy that you applied be more?
I'm uncertain as to how it would change. Once again, based on being single tenanted, like we kind of spoke throughout the course of the day today with the different styles of buildings and locations, how the vacancy rates can vary. In this case, the model finds 1.5% vacancy to be applicable to this property, knowing that there's 0% vacancy. We're still applying a vacancy rate.
So it's the single tenant aspect of it that's kind of driving the, what would be quote unquote a normal vacancy, lower than a normal vacancy?
I mean, based on like the risk of a vacancy, having, multiple units can, have an impact on that just as there's more units to rent. But in terms of the extent of it, I'm uncertain.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have no further questions.
Sorry, just as a follow-up in the vacancy, I don't want to beat this to death, but what region is this called?
I don't have the Johnson report in front of me.
No, not by Johnson, but by the city. Don't you have just like one big area that's the entire east side of the city? That's the region?
Give me 1 second.
Is it in your maps?
Not in my brief.
It's called like it extends all the way up to past Monroe, down all the way south to the perimeter. It would include East Kildonan, Elmwood, and St. Boniface in it. Pretty much, wouldn't it?
2 market regions in that area. I'm just looking to see which one it falls into. Market region 2 or market region 3. If it is the one you're speaking to, it does span north-south.
It's a very broad area, isn't it? Like geographically.
Yes, it is. So Market Region 2 does span the east side of the city, north-south.
Okay, sorry about that. It's actually in South Transcona, I think it's called, isn't it?
Transcona Yards.
Yeah, so South Transcona. Thank you. Sorry, I'm fine. I'm finished.
I actually have one more question. So this owner owns both pieces of land there, the future development as well?
At this time, it's one piece of land. So it's one roll number, one large property. Excess land value is added to this based on there being value in that land. So they've indicated that there are plans for future development. And it is, something where the land to plan ratio is a lot higher than we see with most properties.
Okay, and you're not familiar with the details of what that future development is going to be?
No, I'm not at all. Once again, this was submitted with their building drawings and their permitting. Whether their intentions are, for future development for themselves or for selling, or keeping as a rental investment property, I'm not sure. That would have to come with redevelopment, whether they applied for a replot, and then, Mr. Neufeld spoke to all the parameters involved. They're the additional work regarding, permitting and having approaches, etc. But at this time, we're not aware of any planned development or when they plan to develop a timeline. So for this assessment is based on the one roll, one single property with excess land.
Okay, I have no further questions then. Mr. Neufeld, you may begin your presentation, please.
Thank you. I'm just looking at page 1. I guess we have a picture of the site before development occurred, the lot, and they did improve it with the building. And in the valuation, just to summarize, and I'll touch on this in the rebuttal, is that the concept of excess land, the city has always done it wrong. And in my experience, I've only ever seen it done right once, and that was on a property at 1465 Inkster, which had 2 titles. And the operative statement is simple. It has the potential to be sold separately. This does not. And the one thing you can do is you can try to estimate the costs of subdivision costs, the dedication fee, which is 10% of the value created, the development approval costs, and anything else that comes in. You can do all that, and maybe you can estimate it, but that's not an appropriate method either, because until it's subdivided, it does not have the potential. What you're talking about is a prospective appraisal in our business. That's what the city's doing. The Act does not consider prospective appraisals. It considers market value. Right now, it's tied to the main lot until you prove that it can be done. And that means a title split. You can't do it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't attach value to it. Now, one of my first jobs over 20 years ago, my mentor just really screamed me out at me for this. Same thing. But he says, look, there's 2 ways of doing this. Find a comparable property that's sold that has the same land ratio. There's your evidence. Or number 2, find a land rent, because you can rent a piece of land. And there are people who want compounds of land. Now, I didn't prepare this. I was actually away. And my advice to the person who prepared it is we put a higher rent on it. Now, why we're not challenging the assessor's rent, he's got 152,000 as his potential rent, and we're at 163,000. That's not a coincidence. That's $11,000 for land rent. And what we based it on was a little over half an acre of land. And the reason we didn't use his number is because the rear of the lot is impacted by the ability to develop because of the trains. And you'll see that in the rebuttal, which is proper rebuttal, I did lay the foundation for it, is that there is a main line and a spur and a yard. And the building has been built 30 meters back from that. And so the entire rear 30 meters is not considered, they're not allowed to develop it. So that takes out around 60,000 square feet of the assessor's planned excess area. So we looked at it and said that's, roughly half an acre that you could rent. Land rental rates are between 18 and 24,000 an acre, is not in the evidence. But this just comes from my work. I do a lot of appraisals, not for taxes, but for other reasons. And so we went and rounded up which would have been around 20,000 an acre for half an acre, and that's how we got our number. We're not disagreeing with his rental value. We've added to it to account for the rent on a land. That's the way you do excess land. No other way. There's no grade 2. Remember what they taught us all. Plus, minus, they fit together. Division, multiplication, they fit together. But the two don't mesh, right? So we've got capitalization, which is division and multiplication, mixed with addition. That's not a proper mathematic formula. And that's really the gist of it. It's you're adding two halves and saying it's a whole. And appraisal theory does not support that sort of work. And the city does it on a mass appraisal technique. And that has to be taken into context. It is a mass appraisal technique, but it does not fit market value as dictated by the Act. Market value is what will the market pay for it. The market won't pay for excess land if you haven't proven that you can do something with it. There's actually our municipal board orders on it. I think the first one I ever read was 2505 Main Street on that particular issue. I'm not going to get into them and quote them because every job has to be taken differently. Incidentally, there's a trick that most developers do that they can make their land marketable. So if you assemble land, say you assemble 7 pieces of land, put it together, make a shopping center, and then along comes, you have excess land. Well, you actually have the legal right to reseparate your land and not with the same dimensions. So then it's just a question of redoing a subdivision of the land with the surveyor. And I've done a couple of shopping centers where that happened, and that's how they slice off pad sites. That is not the case here. This was a single title. There's no way you can just imagine it can be there. On the issue of, so other than that, the vacancy rate was taken from the Johnson report, and I have that in front of me right now. And what we can do there is narrow this down to investment properties. If you're using the income approach, you don't use data from owner-occupied properties because they're not investment properties. You want to see how the market's going to react if this goes vacant, if it's put up for rent. And the Johnson tracks single and multi-tenanted buildings. The overall rate is, 4.7% in the city of Winnipeg. And the districts that would be included in the city's workup would be Elmwood and East Quay and St. Boniface and Transcona. The data in each of those areas is rather small and sparse, and this being in South Transcona, virtually non-existent. So the fairest way to deal with this is look at a citywide rate for properties, and the hinterland, the area that this place services, is the east side of Winnipeg for contractors who need to rent tools for construction projects. And that we rounded to 5%. The shortfall we have, which differs from the assessor, is just our estimate of the actual costs, and taxes are quite high, and that's the predominant part of a shortfall. Shortfall is what do you have to pay if the place is vacant, and you can't just slap a rate on it. Most of the industrial rates the assessor uses are rents where they're anywhere from $6 to $7, and their taxes are about $2. Taxes here are $6.79. So of course your shortfall is going to be higher. It's a mixed. It's like half retail, half industrial, and that's why the shortfall is higher. As to the cap rate, the workup we've done, there is no real cap rate for these types of owner occupied small properties. They do not trade among active investors because you'll find an occasional transaction, but the concept of using the income approach for owner occupied properties like this is it doesn't apply perfectly. Because you'll find that they usually transact by sales, direct comparison, but with that sale, there's usually elements of the business involved, and they need to be adjusted, and the data is really not there for that all the time. So, but in any event, the concept of applying a cap rate to it is hypothetical. Now, there's no such thing as a 5% cap rate. Never has, never will be, I think. I'm going to say never will be, but maybe one day. A cap rate is derived primarily from the interest rate. And on page 40, first of all, we had an error in the Colliers cap rate Q1 2023. And I caught the error just last year, around September of last year. And with Colliers' assistance, we reworked the tables. So what we were really looking at for industrial B prior to that was 6.5 to 7.5. After that, 6.5 to 7.5. Now, what was happening in our market at this time was the impact of COVID, which put a lot of demand on industrial warehouse space for storage of protection equipment and for the increasing home delivery services. So when that Amazon truck comes to your door, it doesn't stop at Safeway or Walmart to pick up the goods. They got 2 huge warehouses and they go to other warehouses, they pick up the goods and deliver. You're now getting a direct from warehouse to your house delivery, cutting out the middleman. That explains the slippage in retail, the turnovers. Lots of places went bankrupt, and the demand on warehousing. And if you don't separate warehousing from services, you get a rate that's skewed to a very growing in-demand market. And this is my business. I was listening earlier today about, somebody said something, I know somebody here, I know somebody here. No, I do this for a living. I appraise properties, not just for this. And we do it for all sorts of various reasons. And the application of a cap rate, typically in an appraisal like this, we have to do a use value because the business gets sold with the property. That's not a cap rate. That's on the business too. So these Colliers cap rates, 6.5 to 7.5, are investment grade, and the definitions of them are on page 39. Our site does not fit those definitions. These are superior properties we track, and the same goes for CBRE and Cushman, because we want to sell properties to investors, not end users. The end user work goes to miscellaneous brokers who have mixed portfolios, who aren't going after investment sales, they're going after use sales. We have this schism in the valuation process, and it's the job of the appraiser to try to balance it. So our balancing act was going back to page 1, and said, okay, well, this is not a great property. It doesn't fit into there, but we can adjust it. So on page 2, and I have to keep saying this again because my department is now the author of that Colliers cap rate study, which means everything I'm saying to you is not hearsay. What we do now, and this is after the error was caught, we go and we canvass the brokers. We ask them what is transacting, how much are the cap rates. So I don't want to hear any stories about it could be this or could be that. What's the real numbers? We collect the real numbers. Without changing them whatsoever, we put them in the report and then put in a little narrative. And we're also working a lot harder to make sure this error, that people understand this is the best product. This is not a tool rental outfit. Now, hypothetically, if you were to compare that tool outlet to a good grade quality, there'd be some changes. And so what we were doing on this is page 2 is just to rationalize the changes on there, because I don't disagree with the assessor. New build, high ceiling, good space, you know. I think the worst thing about this is location for alternate use. It's way far out, but for contractors, it's not. So what's missing in this is the fact that this appeals to a very limited number of users. You won't find it, and it's too small for an industrial property at 11,000 feet. I mean, the minimum standard in Winnipeg is 30,000 feet, whereas big cities could be over 100,000 square feet. And the smaller you get, the smaller you get, the worse the cap rate is, not the better it gets, because it's more affordable, because there's no demand. It's not. That's how cap rates derive. So personally, I don't agree with what's written up here, but I'm not changing anything. It's 6.7%. Now, part of the reason I'm not changing anything is not only I personally would be shooting 7.5 to 8, but the other thing is we do have land for expansion, and that's a positive factor. You have revenue growth. So what I would have done is altered the size of it to bring that cap up. But then I would have gone income growth potential to do a negative adjustment, which results in a lower cap rate, because it has room for growth. We're not disagreeing. We put it in there the proper way, which if in the income approach. So that was the reason for the 6.7%, and that comes to 2,058,000. And I know sometimes I get kind of preachy on this stuff, and I apologize, but I've been doing this for 30 years now, and there has to be a way to come to a reasonable conclusion using logic, and not just, I got a model, it spits it out, and this is what it is. We know the way the city model works, and it does not account for these differences. That's why I got a job. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gretchen, do you have any questions on the applicant's presentation?
I'm not going to ask any questions today. Thank you.
Ms. Sharman, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, so yeah, I think you might have said that you accounted for the land in the rent. Did you say that?
That's
or imply
correct.
that?
The rent, and then at the end, a little bit more aggressive cap rate.
You said that I think you would apply a 7.5 cap rate to this property.
On something like this, it'd probably be about where it should end up. I think that I did not present them in evidence, but I'm looking at 5 cap rates in around that range. That only came to us after we prepared this report, and that would be reasonable. But I know I hope it's not too confusing, but there's 2 elements with land in excess. And one is you have to give it an income, which we did. We increased the rent rate. Now, there's a cap rate is based on anticipation. What do you expect can happen in the future? So you have the ability with some capital input to create more revenue. Therefore, the cap rate should be lower. And that's why 7, my opinion of 7.5 was tempered to the rate at 6.7.
So do you factor in the age of the building when you do these
Not really.
assessments?
No, it's utility. I mean, it isn't so much the age, it's utility. So it's got a fairly high ceiling for a small building, and that's a good thing. It's got a good placement on the land in that it allows, if you look at the pictures, it allows a full semi-trailer turning circle in front of it. That's a positive thing. And those are the first things I look at is any industrial use is semi-trailers, access, and ceiling height. The age, a really good building built in the 50s should command similar values as one built in 2024. if they both offer the same degree of utility, because people aren't buying it because it looks good. They're buying it. Can you fit my goods? Can you rack 5 high, 4 high? Can I turn a semi around in your parking lot? The age thing, most buildings will have a similar remaining economic life, no matter when they're built. The ones built in the 50s and 60s are more durable than ones built today because the construction materials were hardier. There's ups and downs on everything. And then it's demand. What are people looking for? The location's not great on this, but.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no further questions. Anything in summation, Mr. Gretchen?
No summation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything in summation, Mr. Neufeld?
I just wanted the rebuttal to just briefly let you look over something.
Okay, rebuttal. You don't have anything in summation then on your sorry, yeah, okay. We'll go with the rebuttal. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
No, it's fine. And then I have a very brief summation because I think you let me say it all in the process.
Mm-hmm. So is that included with our evidence, Crystal or Ms. Harlan?
Mr. Chair, I just put the rebuttal into your folder. I'm not sure if the assessor has the rebuttal, the applicant's rebuttal.
I emailed it to him, but it was
Okay.
while he was talking.
I have to get up here myself.
I'm just going to my email here for it.
I can send it to anybody who doesn't have it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, here it is. All right, I have it open now.
Okay. Starts off with replacement costs. Is that right? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Everybody have it? Anybody not have it? Okay. We may proceed then.
This is rebuttal. The permit that the assessor brought forward said $4 million, and this is the original workup that was done for construction. And you can see that replacement cost new was actually $2,025,000, and then there was a lump sum adjustment of $1.9 million. And I asked what this was about, and the answer was that there were some unknown land stabilization issues, as well as the interior fixtures, furniture, and equipment, which of course are not accessible. I just wanted to clarify this wasn't a $4 million building, it was a $2 million building. Sometimes the permits don't say it. The next page is an article. I clipped this out. I just saw it, that about the setbacks, and the actual document is on the third page. So I'm not going to misrepresent this. This is not the city of Winnipeg. This is put out by the Federation of Municipalities and the Railway Association of Canada. What they want is, this came after Lac Mégantic, the big disaster, is that they did not want continued urban encroachment on rail lines, and they've asked all the municipalities to go along with this. Most of the rural municipalities are, the cities are when it's possible. But when you go to property and planning, you will have happen. And there's actually the third page, it shows they want berms now, or depressions, railway cuts, and shows how it's measured. And the fourth page has those dimensions again. Rail yard 300, principal main 30, secondary main 30. So this is how it turned out on the fifth page. This is a line, and this is drawn to the foundation because that's the picture I had, was the only one. So this is 159 meters from the rail yard. Now that wasn't enforced. The next picture on right under it shows about 35 meters, and I'm guessing on the lines here, so it's not totally accurate. what you see is the colored cars, the white, the blue, the red, the green one. That is one main line, and then the secondary main line you can barely see. And then there's the property line, and of course the distance is measured to the property line, as the previous one said. So what this is they complied with the 30 meters. And that, like, I don't know if that's what property and planning made them do, but the next picture is a close-up, and you can actually see the secondary main line. It's looks a bit disused, but it's still there. Then on the bottom of the 6th page, I just drew a line around the 30 meters, the most northerly 30 meters of space. Comes out to 59,000 square feet that they're not using, they can't use, and they've proven it because it's no build. And that's where I came up with the concept that I'm not dismissing the assessor's 77,000 feet. I'm simply saying that the real number that would be deemed, I'm not going to say excess, so we'll call it surplus, would be closer to about 20,000 feet, or roughly half an acre. And we got the number of, like I said, 18 to 24,000, but that's my evidence, not. This just shows that the concept of determining excess land has to take into account unusual setbacks. And what do you get in loss of usable land, not just gross area. We see this a lot. Say a triangle-shaped lot has a greater utility loss than a square lot because of the legal setbacks. So all of this has to be taken into account when you deem something excess. It's not math, it's common sense that has to be in play here, and review of the applicable standards. And this one has been proven, 30 meters. That's my rebuttal.
Okay. Any questions on the applicant's rebuttal from the assessor?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Sharman, any questions?
No, thank you.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Yes, I just need some clarification in regard to page 1, Mr. Neufeld presentation, and you spoke to that lump sum adjustment of 1.9 million. I'm sorry, can you just repeat what you had said that was for?
I was told it was for two things: land stabilization, because the land turned out to be far less stable for the support of trucks than we first thought. So that would refer to excavating marshy land and bringing in solid fill. And the other part of it was the furniture, fixtures, and equipment installed inside the new building. Yeah, you know, when a building like this, they'll finance the entire package, and it's more and more popular with finance people they'll finance all this equipment, and even give you a better rate on it than the building, depending who you go to for financing. And this was the breakout, but for the taxable portion, real estate, cost due was $2 million.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thanks for your rebuttal.
Thank you. I have no questions on the rebuttal. All right, now we can do summations. Anything in summation, Mr. Gretchen?
No summation for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything in summation, Mr. Neufeld?
I just probably rehash what I said. In the model doesn't work for these. There's, you know, and I love this example. When something is important to you, you give it different names, such as for the Inuit, snow, 7 different types of snow. That's the old saying, right? Because it's very important to them. My business, we got 37 different types of industrial. They're all treated differently, and the city has one format of application. This is not an investment grade building, and they're putting it on by the rates. I understand their confusion because they get sales, and then they put potential income on, and they said, well, this thing's capping too low. Well, the answer is obvious. It wasn't sold for its investment potential. And that's the problem with a mass appraisal system, is just sending out a questionnaire isn't adequate enough. In my profession, we're supposed to go out and find the answers. And so we don't. We don't do it that way. Now what we do is look at investment grade properties and reasonably adjust them from the best rates to account for the deficiencies. And in this case is one of the rare cases where we actually found a positive influence on the cap to drop it, which is the ability to develop land further. And we also put a rent on that. That's what you're supposed to do when you have land that's a lot too much. It's clear there's a lot of land and you can do more on it. The way to do it is put a rent on it, compound rents all across Winnipeg. I can tell the assessor he's got 20 in his workups right now if he knew where to find them. And that's a joke. That's not a slam, but they're there. And that's the proper way to do it, because you don't mix addition with division. It's you keep the same approach, the income approach. Don't just add an adjustment to it. Many residential appraisers do this in their work, but if you note that when they do it, if anyone's had their house appraised residentially, they'll go, well, we're adding 8,000 for this deck and this for the garage. They're using direct comparison to start with, and then they're adjusting it. It's more reasonable in those circumstances. It is not reasonable in the income approach. There are ways to do it. We did it with a higher rent than the assessor used, and we also did it by lowering the cap on what should have been used for a property like this. And other than that, those setbacks are real. They were enforced. There is not the same volume of land, and that's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will conclude this property, item number 8, 2465 Dougal 2025 assessment. So we will carry on to item number 9, which is the same property at 2465 Dougal, the 2026 assessment. So if the assessor and applicant, let it be known that we will consider all of as the evidence is the same, we will consider all of what we've discussed and the arguments made, and they will be carried forward to this property, and we proceed on that basis.
I'm in agreement. My brief evidence is an identical brief to the previous file number. So if it's okay with you and Mr. Neufeld, I'll read in file number, roll number, and just ask for confirmation on the previous value presented.
Yes.
You're okay with that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you may begin reading it in then, Mr. Gretchen.
All right, final item on the docket. File number is 25-498. Roll number 090104751335. This is for roll year 2026. Our reference date is April 1st, 2023, and we are asking for confirmation on the value at $3,548,000. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Nothing.
Any questions from the panel?
No questions. Thank you.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Mr. Neufeld, you can begin your presentation.
Same as information as before. If the board will accept the questions, presentations that have been previously discussed and apply to this file, that I would be finished.
Yeah, board will do that. Noted. Any questions from Mr. Gretchen?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from the panel?
No questions. Thank you.
I have no questions.
No questions.
That will conclude item number 9, 2465 Dougal. Thank you very much for your presentation, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Everyone have a good afternoon.
Yeah.
You too.
And we have heard all of the items today, and this meeting is now adjourned.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll go get us offline. And can we take a 5-minute break, please?
I think 10. We'll take 10.
Okay, that's fine. Just a moment, please.
Thank you.